The shuttle docked with a soft thump, and Una Park pressed her face against the small window like a child seeing snow for the first time. Velura Station stretched before her, a massive wheel of metal and light spinning slowly against the black of space. Thousands of windows glowed like tiny stars. Ships of every shape moved around it, like fish around a reef. "Stop pressing your nose on the glass," Tae Kim said from behind her. He was checking his security gear for the 10th time. "You look like a tourist." "I am a tourist," Una said, not moving from the window. "The first human xenobiologist to work on a galactic compact station. Let me enjoy this." Hana Cho, their diplomatic liaison, stood up and smoothed her formal jacket. She was always smooth, always calm, always ready with the right words. "We are not tourists," she said gently. "We are representatives of Earth. Every species on that station will be watching us." Una finally turned away from the window. "Then let's give them something good to watch." The airlock opened, and they stepped into Velura Station. The first thing Una noticed was the smell. It was not bad, just different. 100 different species meant 100 different scents, all mixed together and filtered through the station's air systems. The second thing she noticed was the staring. Aliens of every kind filled the wide corridor. Tall ones, short ones, ones with too many eyes, ones with no eyes at all. They all stopped what they were doing to look at the three humans walking past. Una heard whispers in languages she did not understand. "They're looking at us," Tae muttered. "They're curious," Hana said quietly. "Humans have only been part of the galactic community for 15 years. To most of them, we are still new." A Vellani administrator was waiting for them at the end of the corridor. The Vellani were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. They moved like they were made of water, smooth and careful. This one wore the silver robes of a station official. "Welcome to Velura Station," the administrator said. His voice was soft and precise. "I am Administrator Nokri. I will be your primary contact during your stay." Hana stepped forward and performed the formal greeting she had practiced for weeks. Nokri seemed pleased, or at least Una thought he did. It was hard to read Vellani faces. "Your quarters have been prepared," Nokri continued. "They are located near the biodome, as requested. Dr. Park, I understand you wish to study our conservation facilities." Una nodded. "Yes, Earth has a long history of wildlife conservation. I hope to share knowledge with your scientists." It might have been doubt. "Yes, well, the biodome contains many species. Some are quite dangerous. You will need to follow all safety rules." "Of course," Una said. Nokri led them through the station. Una tried to look at everything at once. Markets filled with strange goods, restaurants serving food she could not name, parks with plants in colors she had never seen, and everywhere, aliens going about their lives, barely glancing at the humans now that the initial surprise had passed. Their quarters were simple but comfortable. 3 small rooms connected to a common area, with a large window looking out at the biodome. The biodome was a huge glass sphere attached to the station, filled with trees and rocks and water. It looked like someone had taken a piece of a planet and put it in a bubble. "Get some rest," Hana said. "Tomorrow we begin official meetings." Tae immediately started checking the rooms for security problems. Una stood at the window, watching the biodome. "There," she said, pointing. "What's that section?" A part of the biodome was walled off from the rest. Heavy metal barriers surrounded it. Warning signs flashed in a dozen languages. Even from this distance, Una could see the words: "Hazard. Apex Predator Enclosure. No entry." "Don't even think about it," Tae said without looking up. "I'm just curious." "Curious gets people killed." Una did not argue, but she kept watching. Something moved behind those barriers. Something big. For just a moment, she saw a shape passed by a gap in the wall. It was covered in dark scales, with too many legs. Then it was gone. She ate dinner with Tay and Hana, talking about the next day's schedule. She reviewed her notes on Vellani culture. She sent a message back to Earth, telling her mother she had arrived safely. She did all the things she was supposed to do. But that night, she could not sleep. She lay in her small bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the shape she had seen. What was it? Why was it kept apart from everything else? Why did the sign say Apex Predator, like it was something to fear? Then she heard it. A sound came through the walls. It was low and deep, almost too low to hear. It vibrated in her chest. It rose and fell like a wave, like a call, like a question that no one was answering. It sounded young. It sounded alone. Yuna sat up in bed. The sound came again, and this time she was sure. That was not a monster making that noise. That was a baby. A lost, scared baby, crying for someone to come. She thought about what Tay had said. Curious gets people killed. She thought about what Hana had said. Every species will be watching us. She thought about all the rules, and all the warnings, and all the reasons she should just go back to sleep. The sound came again, softer now, tired, giving up. Tomorrow, Yuna whispered to herself. Tomorrow I'll find out what you are. She lay back down and closed her eyes, but she did not sleep for a long time. In her mind she kept hearing that cry, that lonely, desperate cry, and somewhere deep inside her, something that had been sleeping for a long time began to wake up. It was the same thing that had made her ancestors look at wolves and see friends. The same thing that had made humans cross oceans and climb mountains and reach for the stars. It was the need to help, the need to connect, the need to find something lost and bring it home. Yuna did not know it yet, but her life was about to change forever, and so was the galaxy's understanding of what it meant to be human. The next morning, she woke before the station's artificial sunrise. She dressed quickly, quietly, and made her way toward the biodome. She had questions, and she was going to find answers. The biodome was even more beautiful up close. Yuna walked through the main entrance and found herself surrounded by alien plants. Purple leaves brushed against her shoulders. Orange flowers turned to follow her movement. Somewhere above, small creatures flew between the branches, making sounds like tiny bells. But Yuna was not here for the beauty. She was here for answers. She found the restricted section after 20 minutes of searching. The metal barriers were even taller than they had looked from her window. Warning lights blinked red and yellow. A security drone floated nearby, watching her with a single camera eye. "Can I help you?" Yuna turned. A Vellani in a white coat stood behind her. This one was smaller than Administrator Nokri, with lighter blue skin and nervous hands that kept moving. "I'm Dr. Yuna Park," Yuna said. "Human delegation. I'm a xenobiologist." "Yes, I know who you are." The Vellani's large eyes blinked rapidly. "I am Dr. Pell. I am the veterinarian for the biodome. You should not be here." "I heard something last night. From inside that enclosure, it sounded like a young animal crying." Dr. Pell's nervous movements stopped. For a moment, he was completely still. Then his shoulders dropped, and he looked very tired. "You heard the Cathari," he said quietly. "Cathari?" Dr. Pell looked around to make sure no one else was listening. Then he gestured for Yuna to follow him. They walked to a small observation room built into the side of the barrier. Through thick glass, Yuna could finally see what was inside. The enclosure was designed to look like a rocky forest. Dark trees grew between large boulders. A stream ran through the middle. And there, pacing back and forth beside the water, was the creature. It was about the size of a large dog, but it looked nothing like any dog Yuna had ever seen. 6 legs, supported a body covered in dark green scales. A long tail dragged behind it, ending in a cluster of sharp spines. Its head was broad and flat, with golden eyes that seemed to glow in the dim light. When it opened its mouth, Yuna saw rows of teeth like broken glass. "That's a baby?" Yuna asked. "A cub," Dr. Pell said, "approximately 2 years old in development. Adult Cathari are 3 times this size. They are considered one of the most dangerous predators in the known galaxy." Yuna watched the cub pace. Its movements were jerky, frustrated. Every few steps, it would stop and look around, as if searching for something it could not find. What happened to it? Its mother was killed by poachers on Keth Prime. We found the cub alone, starving. The station took it in for conservation purposes. Dr. Pell's voice was heavy with sadness. But we cannot help it. No one can. What do you mean? Cathari are social creatures. They need contact, play, interaction. Without it, they become stressed. Their health fails. This cub has been alone for 8 months. Dr. Pell pointed at the creature. Look at its scales. They should be bright green. See how dull they are? Its stress hormones are dangerously high. It is dying of loneliness. Yuna felt her heart squeeze tight. Can't anyone go in there, play with it? We have tried. Every species in the compact has tried. Dr. Pell shook his head. The cub charges anyone who enters. It roars, it attacks, it shows every sign of aggression. 3 of my assistants have been injured. We have had to use barriers and sedatives just to feed it. As if to prove his words, the cub suddenly turned toward the observation glass. It saw them watching. Its golden eyes locked onto Yuna's face, and it roared. The sound hit the glass like a physical force. Even through the thick barrier, Yuna felt it in her bones. It was loud, deep, and full of something that was not quite anger. Pell stepped back, his hands shaking. But Yuna did not move. She watched the cub finish its roar, and then wait. It was watching her, waiting to see what she would do. It's not attacking, Yuna said slowly. It's challenging. What? That roar, it's not aggression, it's a test. Yuna pressed her hand against the glass. The cub tilted its head, confused by this creature that did not run. Dr. Pell, do you have research files on Cathari social behavior? How they interact with each other? Yes, but I need to see them, all of them. Yuna spent the rest of the day reading. She read about Keth Prime, a death world where everything was trying to kill everything else. She read about Cathari pack structures, how they lived in family groups led by the loudest and bravest members. She read about how cubs learned their place in the pack. And then she found what she was looking for. It was a Cathari tradition, as old as the species itself. Cubs would challenge adults to shouting matches. The adult would roar, the cub would roar back, and whoever was louder and more confident won. It was not about fighting. It was about communication. It was about finding your pack. Yuna sat back and thought about this. The cub was roaring at everyone who entered because it was trying to play. It was trying to find its family. But every species that heard that roar ran away or fought back with weapons. No one understood what it was really asking. It was asking, "Are you my pack?" The problem was simple. No alien species could match a Cathari roar. Their hearing was too sensitive. Their instincts told them to flee from such a sound. They could not answer the cub's question. But humans were different. Humans had evolved on a planet full of predators. Humans had lived alongside lions and wolves and bears. Humans had learned to shout, to stand their ground, to make themselves big and loud when facing danger. Humans did not run from a roar. Humans roared back. Yuna found Tay and Hana in their quarters that evening. She told them everything she had learned. Tay looked at her like she had lost her mind. Hana looked thoughtful. You want to go into an enclosure with an apex predator, Tay said flatly. A baby apex predator, Yuna corrected. A baby that has injured 3 trained professionals. Because they didn't understand what it wanted. Yuna grabbed Tay's arm. It's not trying to hurt anyone. It's trying to play. It's trying to find its family. And I think I can give it what it needs. By screaming at it? By answering its challenge? By showing it that I'm not afraid? Yuna took a deep breath. By showing it that it's not alone anymore. Tay looked at Hana. Hana looked at Yuna. The room was quiet for a long moment. I'll talk to Administrator Nokri, Hana finally said. But Yuna, if you're wrong about this, I'm not wrong. Yuna thought about the cub pacing in its lonely prison, crying out for someone to answer. I know I'm not wrong. That night the cub roared again, and this time, Yuna smiled when she heard it. Soon, she whispered. I'm coming soon. Administrator Nokri stared at Yuna like she had just suggested setting the station on fire. You want to enter the Cathari enclosure? He said slowly, as if hoping he had heard wrong. Yes. The enclosure containing one of the most dangerous predators in known space. Yes. Because you believe you can shout at it? Yuna kept her voice calm and professional. Cathari cubs use roar challenges to establish social bonds. The cub is not being aggressive. It is trying to communicate. It is trying to find its pack. Every species that has entered has either fled or fought. No one has answered its challenge. And you believe a human can? I know a human can. Yuna leaned forward. Administrator, my species evolved on a death world too. We lived with predators for millions of years. We learned to stand our ground, to make noise, to show that we were not prey. Humans have been answering challenges like this since before we had language. Nopri was quiet for a long time. Dr. Pell stood in the corner, looking terrified. Hana sat beside Yuna, her face revealing nothing. Tay stood by the door, arms crossed, ready to argue against the whole plan. If you are killed, Nokri finally said, it will be a diplomatic disaster. The Galactic Compact's relationship with humanity could be damaged for generations. And if I don't try, Yuna replied, that cub will die alone. What does that say about the Compact? That we let a baby suffer because we were too afraid to try something new. Nokri closed his large dark eyes. When he opened them again, something had changed in his expression. Perhaps it was respect. Perhaps it was just exhaustion. Very well, he said. We will arrange a controlled test. You will enter a reinforced antechamber. The cub will have visual and auditory contact with you through a barrier. If the situation becomes dangerous, we will separate you immediately. That's all I ask. 3 hours later, Yuna stood in front of the antechamber door. Her heart was beating fast, but her hands were steady. She had trained for this her whole life, even if she had not known it until now. Tay was beside her, holding a sonic deterrent. Dr. Pell was in the observation room, monitoring equipment. Hana stood with Administrator Nokri and a dozen other officials, all watching through screens. Word had spread through the station. A human was going to face the Cathari cub. Everyone wanted to see what would happen. Last chance to change your mind, Tay said quietly. Yuna smiled. Not a chance. The door opened. She stepped inside. The antechamber was small, maybe 10 meters across. One wall was made of reinforced glass, looking into the main enclosure. Emergency barriers were ready to slam down at the first sign of trouble. Everything was designed to keep her safe. But Yuna was not thinking about safety. She was thinking about the cub. It was already there, on the other side of the glass. It had heard the door open. It had seen her enter. And now it was staring at her with those golden eyes, completely still. Yuna stared back. For a long moment, nothing happened. The cub's tail twitched, Its 6 legs shifted on the rocky ground. Yuna could see its muscles tensing, preparing. Then it dropped into a hunting crouch. In the observation room, someone gasped. On the screens, alien officials leaned forward in their seats. Dr. Pell's monitors showed the cub's heart rate climbing, climbing, climbing. The cub opened its mouth, and it roared. The sound was like nothing Yuna had ever heard. It was not just loud, it was everything. It was thunder and earthquakes and the end of the world. It shook the glass. It shook the floor. It shook her bones. Alarms started blaring. Warning lights flashed. The emergency barriers began to descend. But Yuna did not run. She did not scream. She did not fall. She did not show fear. She planted her feet on the floor. She straightened her back. She filled her lungs with air, drawing from deep in her belly, from a place she had not known existed until this moment. And she bellowed back. It was not a pretty sound. It was not a human sound, not really. It was something older, something that came from a time when her ancestors had stood on the plains of Africa and answered the challenges of lions and hyenas and wild dogs. It was a sound that said, "I am here. I am not afraid. I am not prey." Yuna threw her arms wide, making herself big. She held the cub's gaze without blinking. She poured everything she had into that roar, every ounce of strength and courage and stubborn human refusal to give up. The sound echoed through the chamber. The glass vibrated. The alarms went silent, confused by this unexpected response. For 3 heartbeats, nothing moved. The cub's eyes went wide. Its ears, which had been flat against its skull, slowly lifted. Its tail, which had been rigid with tension, began to move, back and forth, back and forth. It was wagging. The cub's whole body relaxed. It dropped from its hunting crouch onto its side, rolling to expose its belly. Small chirping sounds came from its throat, sounds Yuna had never heard on any recording. Sounds of happiness, sounds of welcome. The challenge had been answered. The cub had found its pack. In the observation room, there was complete silence. Then chaos. Dr. Pell was shouting about stress hormone levels dropping. Administrator Nokri had gone very still, his blue skin pale with shock. Alien officials were talking over each other in a dozen languages. Hana was smiling, small and quiet, like she had known this would happen all along. Tay lowered his sonic deterrent. "Well," he said softly, "I'll be damned." Yuna barely heard any of it. She was focused on the cub, on this beautiful, lonely creature that had been waiting so long for someone to understand. "Can you raise the barrier?" she asked, her voice rough from the roar. "The glass barrier. Can you lift it?" "Dr. Park, that would be extremely," Nokri started. "Please." There was a long pause. Then, slowly, the glass barrier began to rise. Yuna knelt on the floor. She made herself small, non-threatening. She held out her hand, palm up, the way you would greet a dog on Earth. The cub crawled toward her. Its 6 legs moved carefully, almost shyly. Its golden eyes never left her face. When it reached her hand, it stopped. Its breath was warm and smelled like copper. Then it pushed its massive head into her palm. Yuna felt tears on her cheeks. She did not know when she had started crying. It did not matter. All that mattered was this moment, this connection, this tiny bridge built between 2 species that had never met before. "Hey there," she whispered. "It's okay. I've got you. You're not alone anymore." The cub made a sound, low and rumbling. It was not a roar. It was a purr. And in that moment, watching a human kneel beside one of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy, every alien on the observation deck understood something they had never understood before. Humans were not just soft and short-lived. Humans were not just strange and confusing. Humans were terrifying, because humans looked at monsters and saw family. The video spread across the galaxy like fire. Within hours, everyone on Velura Station had seen it. Within days, it had reached 100 worlds. The footage was not very long, maybe 3 minutes, but it was enough. A small human woman facing a Cathari cub. The cub roaring with all its strength. The human roaring back. And then the most dangerous predator in known space rolling over like a happy puppy. Yuna did not know about any of this at first. She was too busy with Bomi. That was the name she had given the cub, Bomi. It meant spring in Korean, the season when things that had been sleeping wake up. It felt right. The cub had been sleeping in its loneliness, and now it was awake. She visited the enclosure every day. At first, the visits were short and careful. Dr. Pell monitored everything, watching the cub's vital signs, ready to intervene at the first sign of trouble. Bomi followed Yuna everywhere inside the habitat, pressing against her legs, chirping for attention. When Yuna left, the cub would sit by the barrier and wait for her to come back. Its stress hormones are almost normal, Dr. Pell reported after the first week. His voice was full of wonder. Its scales are getting brighter. It is eating properly for the first time since we brought it here. I do not understand how this is possible. Yuna scratched behind Bomi's ears. The cub's massive head pushed harder into her hand, demanding more attention. She just needed someone to play with. It could have killed you. She could have, but she didn't want to kill me. She wanted to find her pack. Yuna smiled down at the cub. Didn't you, Bomi? You just wanted someone to play with. Bomi's tail wagged so hard her whole body shook. Hana came to the enclosure one afternoon, looking both pleased and worried. We have a problem, she said. What kind of problem? The good kind and the bad kind. Hana held up her communication pad. The good kind, the video of you and Bomi has been seen by billions of beings across the galaxy. Species that never paid attention to humans before are suddenly very interested. We have received more diplomatic requests in the past week than in the past 5 years. Yuna blinked. That's good, right? It is excellent. The bad kind, the Galactic Compact Scientific Council, wants a formal presentation on human-animal relationships. They want to understand how humans bond with dangerous creatures. They want you to explain it. Me? You are the only human who has successfully bonded with a Cathari. You are famous, Yuna. Hana smiled, but her eyes were serious. This is an opportunity to change how the galaxy sees humanity. Please do not waste it. She did not want to give presentations or answer questions from alien scientists. She wanted to stay in the enclosure with Bomi, playing and exploring and learning together. But she understood what Hana was saying. This was bigger than her. This was about all of humanity. Fine, she said. I'll do it. The presentation was held in the station's main assembly hall. Hundreds of aliens attended in person. Thousands more watched through screens across the galaxy. Yuna stood on the stage, feeling very small, and talked about Earth. She talked about wolves becoming dogs. She talked about wild horses becoming partners. She talked about tats that had decided on their own to live with humans. She talked about elephants and dolphins and crows, creatures that humans had learned to communicate with over thousands of years. We are not special because we are strong, Yuna said. We are special because we want to connect. When we see another living thing, we do not ask, is it useful? Is it safe? We ask, can we be friends? The audience was silent. Yuna could not tell if they understood, or if they thought she was crazy. Humans have a saying, she continued. We say that a dog is man's best friend, but we do not mean just dogs. We mean any creature that chooses to stand beside us, any creature that trusts us, any creature that becomes pack. She thought of Bomi, waiting for her back in the enclosure. We will do anything for our pack. We will cross oceans. We will climb mountains. We will fight gods themselves, because pack is everything. She finished speaking. For a long moment, there was silence. Then Administrator Nokri stood up. His large dark eyes were fixed on Yuna, and his expression was strange. It looked almost like fear. "Your species," he said quietly, "is either the greatest gift the galaxy has ever received, or the greatest danger. I am not sure which." "Why not both?" Yuna asked. Nokri did not answer. Life settled into a new pattern. Yuna continued her work with Bomi. The cub grew bigger every day, her scales brightening to a beautiful deep green. She learned to respond to her name, to follow simple commands, to play games that Yuna invented. Tay started visiting too, and Bomi loved roar challenging him. He always roared back, and she always wagged her tail like she had won the lottery. But happiness never lasts forever. Not in the real world. 1 month after Yuna's presentation, a ship arrived at Velura Station. It was large and dark, covered in sharp angles and symbols that Yuna did not recognize. When its passengers came aboard, everyone in the docking bay went quiet. They were Cathari. Adult Cathari were everything the cub would one day become. 3 times Bomi's size, covered in dark scales like armor, with teeth and claws that could tear through metal. They moved like shadows, silent and dangerous. But they were not here to hunt. They were here for Bomi. The leader of the group called herself Elder Sarah. She represented the Keth Dominion, the government of the Cathari homeworld. She stood in Administrator Nokri's office and made her demands in a voice like grinding stones. The cub belongs with its own kind. It must be returned to Keth Prime. Nokri looked uncomfortable. Hana looked worried. Yuna felt her heart stop. "The cub has bonded with Dr. Park," Nokri said carefully. "Separating them now could cause psychological damage." "A Cathari bonding with a human is impossible," Elder Sarah said. "The human has confused the cub with false signals. We will correct this behavior." "It's not confusion," Yuna stepped forward, ignoring Hana's warning look. "Bomi chose me. She answered my challenge. By your own traditions, that makes us pack." They were cold and hard. Nothing like Bomi's warm gaze. "You know nothing of our traditions, human. You are soft and weak and short-lived. You could never be pack to a Cathari." "Then test me," Yuna said. "Bring your experts. Let them see Bomi and me together. If they say our bond is false, I will not fight you. But if they say it is real," she met Elder Sarah's eyes without flinching, "then you will leave us alone." The silence stretched long and tight. Elder Sarah's claws clicked against the floor. "Very well," she finally said. "We will bring our behavioral expert. They will evaluate the cub. And when they confirm that this bond is nothing but human foolishness, you will surrender the cub without argument." "Agreed." Elder Sarah turned and left without another word. Nokri let out a long breath. Hana closed her eyes. "Yuna," Tay said quietly, "are you sure about this?" Yuna thought about Bomi, waiting in the enclosure, trusting her to come back. She thought about the roar challenge, the wagging tail, the warm head pressed into her palm. "Pack is pack," she said. "I won't let them take her." But in her heart, she was afraid. What if she was wrong? What if the experts said the bond was not real? What if she lost Bomi forever? She went back to the enclosure that night and sat with the cub until the station's lights dimmed for sleep cycle. Bomi rested her head in Yuna's lap, purring softly. "I won't let them take you," Yuna whispered. "I promise, whatever it takes." Bomi's tail wagged once, slowly, like she understood. The hearing was held in the station's formal council chamber. It was a large round room with seats rising in circles around a central floor. Representatives from a dozen species filled those seats. Vellani administrators, Galactic Compact observers, Keth Dominion delegates, and more. The human delegation sat in one section, small and quiet among the alien crowd. Yuna stood in the center of the floor, trying not to shake. Elder Sarah sat with the other Cathari delegates, her golden eyes never leaving Yuna's face. Beside her was a new Cathari, older than the others, with scales that had faded to gray around the edges. This was Elder Voss, the behavioral expert who would decide Bomi's fate. Administrator Nokri called the hearing to order. His voice was formal and careful, hiding whatever he really felt. We are here to determine the custody of the Cathari cub, designated as Subject 7, known to Dr. Park as Bomi. The Keth Dominion claims that the cub belongs with its own species. Dr. Park claims that a legitimate pack bond has been formed. Elder Voss will evaluate the cub and make a final determination. Elder Sarah stood. The position of the Dominion is clear. Cathari are not pets. They are not companions for lesser species. The cub has been confused by false signals from the human. It must be returned to proper caregivers who understand its true nature. Hana stood next. The position of the human delegation is equally clear. Dr. Park has demonstrated a genuine bond with the cub. Separating them now would cause psychological harm to both. The bond was formed through traditional Cathari customs and should be respected. Elder Voss said nothing. He simply rose from his seat and walked to the center of the floor, his movements slow and deliberate. When he reached Yuna, he stopped and looked down at her with ancient eyes. I will see the cub now, alone. The doors opened. 2 station workers guided Bomi into the chamber. The cub had grown so much in the past weeks. She was nearly as large as Yuna now, her scales bright green, her golden eyes alert and curious. When she saw the room full of strangers, she growled low in her throat. Elder Voss approached her slowly. He made sounds in the Cathari language, soft and careful. Bomi watched him come closer. Her tail was rigid, her muscles tense. Do not be afraid, little one, Voss said. I only wish to know you. He reached out a clawed hand toward her face. Bomi snapped at him. The room gasped. Elder Voss pulled back his hand just in time. Bomi was growling now, her spines raised, her body low to the ground. She looked ready to fight. The cub is aggressive, Elder Sarah said from her seat. Clearly the human has damaged it beyond repair. This proves our point. It proves nothing, Voss said calmly. The cub does not know me. I am a stranger to her. He turned to look at Yuna. Let us see if she knows you. Yuna walked forward. Every eye in the chamber followed her. Bomi's head turned at the sound of her footsteps, and everything changed. The growling stopped. The spines flattened. The tension flowed out of Bomi's body like water from a cup. She made a chirping sound, high and happy, and ran toward Yuna so fast she almost knocked her over. Bomi, easy, Yuna laughed, catching herself against the cub's shoulder. I'm here. It's okay. Bomi pressed her head against Yuna's chest, purring so loudly the sound filled the chamber. Her tail wagged back and forth, back and forth. She chirped and rumbled, and made sounds that Yuna had come to know as Cathari happiness. Elder Voss watched this for a long time. His expression was impossible to read. Speak to her, he finally said, as you normally would. Yuna knelt beside Bomi, scratching behind her ears. Hey, pretty girl. Sorry about all these strangers. I know it's scary, but we're okay. I'm right here. Bomi's purring grew louder. She rolled onto her side, exposing her belly, the ultimate sign of trust for a Cathari. Now leave her, Voss said. Walk away. Yuna hesitated. Bomi's golden eyes looked up at her, confused. But Yuna understood what Voss was doing. This was the real test. I'll be right back, she whispered. I promise. She stood and walked to the far side of the chamber. Bomi's head lifted, watching her go. The cub made a sound, not quite a whine, not quite a cry. A question. Yuna stopped at the edge of the room. Bomi was on her feet now, looking between her and Elder Voss and all the strangers in the seats. Her tail had stopped wagging. Her whole body was tight with uncertainty. Then Bomi did something that Yuna had never seen her do before. She roared. Not the challenge roar, not the playing roar. This was different. This was a call, desperate and loud, echoing off the chamber walls. It was the sound the cub had made on those lonely nights before Yuna had found her. The sound of a baby crying for its pack. Yuna did not think. She just answered. Her roar cut through the chamber, rough and human and full of love. It said, "I am here. I am coming. You are not alone." Bomi's tail exploded into wagging. She ran across the chamber so fast she slid on the smooth floor, crashing into Yuna's legs. She pressed herself against the human, chirping and purring and making every happy sound she knew. Yuna held her tight. "I told you, I'm not going anywhere." The chamber was silent. Every alien in the room was staring at them. Elder Sarah's face was hard and cold. Administrator Nokri looked like he had forgotten how to breathe. Hana was smiling, small and proud. Elder Voss walked toward them slowly. He stood over Yuna and Bomi, watching the cub nuzzle against the human shoulder. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. "Among my people," he said, "pack is sacred. Pack is survival. Pack is not blood. Pack is not species. Pack is choice." He looked at Elder Sarah, then back at Yuna. "This cub has chosen. The bond is real. To deny it would be cruelty." Elder Sarah stood. "You cannot be serious. A human cannot." "I have seen what I have seen." Voss's voice was harder now, brooking no argument. "The cub knows her pack. She calls, and the human answers. She trusts, and the human protects. This is the way of our people. Or have we forgotten?" Sarah's mouth opened, then closed. She looked around at the other Cathari delegates, but none of them would meet her eyes. Finally, she sat down. Her scales flushed dark with anger. "The Dominion withdraws its claim," she said stiffly. "The cub may remain with the human." Yuna let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. Bomi chirped, sensing her relief, and wagged her tail harder. Administrator Nokri stood. "Then it is decided. Dr. Yuna Park is granted official guardianship of the Cathari cub, designated as Bomi. The Keth Dominion and Valura Station will provide resources and support as needed." He paused, and for just a moment, something like a smile crossed his blue face. "This hearing is concluded." The chamber erupted in noise, aliens talking, arguing, celebrating. Hana pushed through the crowd to hug Yuna. Tay clapped her on the shoulder, grinning. Even Dr. Pell was there, his nervous hands finally still, his eyes bright with tears. But Yuna was not paying attention to any of them. She was looking at Bomi, at this beautiful creature who had chosen her, who had trusted her, who had become her pack. "We're okay." Bomi purred and pushed her head into Yuna's palm, just like she had that first day. Later, much later, Yuna sat in the enclosure with Bomi sleeping beside her. The station's lights had dimmed for sleep cycle, and everything was quiet and peaceful. Tay and Hana had come to visit. They sat on rocks nearby, watching the stars through the biodome's glass ceiling. "You know," Hana said, "half the galaxy is terrified of humans now." Yuna looked up. "Terrified? Why?" "Because you looked at one of the most dangerous creatures in known space." Hana's eyes were warm. "And you made it your friend." Yuna laughed softly, careful not to wake Bomi. "That's not scary. That's just being human." "That's exactly why it's scary," Tay said, but he was smiling. Bomi stirred in her sleep. Her eyes opened, golden and sleepy, and she looked up at Yuna. Then softly she roared, a gentle sound, barely more than a rumble. A question. Yuna grinned, and roared back, just as soft. Bomi's tail wagged. Pack is pack. And across the galaxy, on 100 different worlds, beings of every species watched the recordings of a small human woman and a deadly predator cub. They watched the challenge and the answer. They watched the trust and the love. And slowly, one by one, they began to understand something about humanity that they had never understood before. Humans were strange. Humans were soft. Humans were short-lived and emotional and utterly confusing. But when a human decided you were family, they would never let you go. Not for anything. Not ever. Pack is pack.